Chapter 1. The woman cutting your hair has seen you every month for 11 years. She knows your coffee order. She knows where you grew up. She even remembers your birthday. But there's one thing she doesn't know. If she did, she'd probably never look at you the same way again. Because while she's trimming your hair, a number changes on your phone. Not by a few dollars, not by a few hundred, by more money than she'll earn this entire year. And you don't even look. You just keep talking about her daughter's soccer game. Because the strangest thing about becoming a millionaire isn't making the money. It's learning why nobody can ever know. Here's how that happened. Her name is Marisol. She's cut your hair every 5 weeks since you were 20. She thinks you manage inventory at a distribution center. She's not wrong. She's also not even close. Nobody in this shop knows what you're worth. Not Marisol. Not the guy sweeping hair off the floor. Not one person who's ever called you by your first name. You made sure of that. You're 31. You still clock modest hours at a warehouse job you technically don't need anymore. You grew up in a rented duplex on the wrong end of Kessler Avenue. And right now, you're worth more than every house on that street combined. Chapter 2. The Lot Nobody Wanted. Your mother still lives on Kessler. Space heater every winter. You know exactly which outlet trips the breaker. People drive past that street and lock their doors. You grew up locking them from the inside. One October, 3 years out of high school, you're driving past a self-storage yard on the edge of town. Chain-link fence. Weeds pushing through the gravel. Half the roll-up doors are dented. A "for sale by owner" sign has been sitting there so long, the sun has almost erased the phone number. You call anyway. A man named Roy answers. Roy is 74. Roy hasn't updated the rent roll since his wife died. Everyone else who drives past sees a dead lot. You see something different. 140 units, most of them already full. And one man who's simply too tired to collect what people owe him. Rent doesn't care who you are. It just needs to come in on the first. You empty your savings. $9,400. Roy carries the rest on a handshake note at 6%. Just like that, you're the owner of a storage yard that smells like rust and freshly cut grass. And you're carrying a debt bigger than any number you've ever held in your hands. Chapter 3. What compounds? You fix the gate first, then the lighting. Then you raise the rent by $15 a unit. Exactly 4 people leave. The other 136 don't. For the first time in years, the lot has a waiting list. You keep looking closer, and then you notice a pattern. The units nobody wants to run, the ones with broken locks. The ones landlords ignore because they're beneath their attention. Those are the ones sitting on land that's about to become 10 times more valuable once the highway exit finally breaks ground 2 counties over. Before anyone else notices the survey stakes, you buy 2 more lots. By your late 20s, you own 11 of them, spread across 3 counties. And not one of them has your name on the sign. Nobody gets rich from the properties people fight over. They get rich from the ones everyone else steps over. You still drive the same truck. You still wear the same jacket. And whenever someone asks what you do, you smile and say, "I do a little property stuff on the side." That's usually enough. People hear exactly what they expect to hear, and they stop asking questions. Chapter 4. The Habit of Small Answers. You could afford almost any house in the city. You still rent the same 1-bedroom place on Holloway. A coworker asks what you did over the weekend. You shrug. Not much. You don't mention closing on a 19-acre lot and paying cash. The pattern repeats itself for years. The businesses keep getting bigger. The sentences you say out loud about them keep getting smaller. The less you say, the less anyone can take. You learned that lesson the hard way, and you learned it early. You never needed to learn it twice. After a while, keeping your answers short doesn't even feel like hiding anymore. It just feels normal. Someone asks how work's been. Pretty busy. Someone asks why you're always driving out of town. Checking on something. Someone asks whether you've ever thought about buying a house. Maybe someday. None of those answers are lies. They're simply too small to tell the whole story. And somewhere along the way, small answers become a habit. A habit that's a lot harder to break than most people realize. Chapter 5. The Teller. You walk into the same bank you've used since you were 19. Same low counter, same laminated brochures nobody ever reads. A new teller opens your account. Her eyes stop scrolling. She looks up at you, almost like she's checking the screen against your face. Would you like to step into the private banking office? No, I'm good here, you say. You take your receipt and get back in line behind a guy buying a money order. You know exactly what happens to the version of you who says yes to that office. You watched it happen to a man you used to work warehouse shifts with. He sold his half of a strip mall and told everybody at the bar that same night. Within a year, he had cousins calling him family who hadn't spoken to him since middle school. Within 2, he was more exhausted explaining why not this time than he ever was actually building the thing. The moment people find out the number, they stop seeing you and start seeing the number. So you stay in the regular line. You've built something over the last decade that nobody around you has any idea exists. And some nights, that feels less like a secret and more like a small, private room you built with your own hands. Chapter 6. The Night You Almost Told Someone. It's your birthday. Marisol texted you this morning. Same as every year, she's the only one who remembers. Nobody else calls, because nobody else would even know what to say if they did. Not the people who'd make the biggest fuss, if they actually understood what today cost you to get here. Later that afternoon, you drive to a dealership across town you've never set foot in before. There's a car sitting under bright white lights in the showroom. It costs more than your first storage lot did. A salesman named Derek walks over. Derek looks at your jacket, then your boots. Before you've said a single word, he decides exactly who you are. And he decides wrong. For just a second, you actually think about correcting him. You slide into the driver's seat anyway. Your hands rest on the steering wheel, and then something strange happens. You don't want the car. You want Derek to know. You want, just this once, for one stranger to understand what you built, without you having to explain it, defend it, or brace yourself for what comes after. Derek checks his phone. He's already looking past you, waiting for the next customer. The feeling fades, the way it always does. You think about your old warehouse crew, the guys who still text you about fantasy football, with no idea you could buy the company that employs them. Then you think about what it would cost you if they ever found out. So you drive home in the same truck. You pull into the driveway and sit there for a while before going inside. Chapter 7. What It Takes from You. Your oldest friend is Marcus. You grew up just 2 duplexes apart. Marcus drives a delivery van now. And he's 4 months behind on rent. One night he calls you. He's quiet for a long time before he finally says it. He needs to borrow $3,000. He promises he'll pay you back by summer. You could wire him $30,000 and never even notice it was gone. Instead, you meet him at the same diner where the 2 of you used to split a plate of fries because neither of you could afford your own. You slide an envelope across the table. $3,000 in cash. No rush, you tell him. Marcus's eyes well up. He tells you that you saved him. He has no idea what you actually could have done. The day you fix everything for someone, you stop being their friend and become the reason they owe you something. 4 months later, Marcus pays you back. Mostly 20s, counted out 1 bill at a time. On that same diner table. He's proud of himself. You take the money. You smile. You tell him, "Thank you." You could buy the company he drives for, and still, you take the money. You say thank you. That's the part that stays with you. Chapter 8. The Call. It's a Tuesday. Your accountant calls. Her name is Denise. You've worked together for 11 years. No small talk. Not once. You crossed 9 figures this morning, she says. You answer with one word. Okay. She tells you she'll send the statement. You hang up, slip the phone back into your pocket, and go right back to caulking the window frame on Unit 14 at the very lot where this whole thing started. The maintenance guy called in sick. Somebody still has to do it. The number never stops climbing. What gets smaller is the list of people you could tell if it did. You eat dinner alone most nights now. Not because anyone took those people away from you, because every single time you did the math. You thought about what it would cost to keep them, and every single time you chose the silence instead. Chapter 9. Closing Loop. It's Saturday again. You're back in Marisol's chair. Same chair, same haircut. She's still talking about her daughter's soccer team making regionals. She still thinks you manage inventory. After all these years, she knows your coffee order. She knows your birthday. But she has no idea you own the strip mall 2 blocks from her shop. She finishes the cut, spins the chair toward the mirror. Good? She asks. You look at yourself. Same face, same jacket you've been wearing since before any of this began. Good, you say. You hand her a 20. Tell her to keep the change, just like always. She thanks you, just like she always does. Then you walk back out to the truck. You sit behind the wheel for a moment before starting it. You think about Marcus, counting out 20s across a diner table. You think about your mother, still living on Kessler, still turning down the house you've offered her 4 different times. And you think about the one person in this entire city who remembers your birthday and still has no idea what it actually cost you to get here. You built all of this, and you told no one. Somewhere back at the very beginning, with a faded "for sale" sign and a phone call to a tired old man named Roy, there's no way you could have known what staying quiet would eventually cost. If you could go back to that gravel lot, knowing everything it would take from you, would you still make the call? The answer comes faster than you'd like. You start the truck. You pull out of the lot. Would you have made the same call to Roy's lot, knowing what it would cost later? I'm genuinely curious where you land on this one. If this kind of story is your speed, there's more where this came from.